Great morning. Welcome to your morning mentorship. This is part 2, October 23rd, Friday. At least I believe it's October 23rd. October 23rd, it's a Friday. And we are doing part 2 of changing yourself. What it takes to really change the things about you that you don't like, that you've grown now in wisdom and you know that you should change. And so, guys, I'm excited to bring part 2 to you early this morning. And if you're watching the playback, thank you so much for watching the playback. I hope you're getting massive value out of this lesson. All right, so for my co-host on the line, make sure you're helping me admit people. I know you're trying to listen, take notes, admit some people. I so appreciate you this morning. Thank you so much. All right, guys, so let's bring it back. Last time we left on Wednesday, basically what we learned on Wednesday was that we are addicted to our external. Right? We're addicted to our external. And if we ever want to reestablish dominion, those 2 words right there. I'm going to write Dr. Joe Dispenza a letter and I'm going to say, you ain't slick. You sneaked in those 2 words. You know dang well those 2 words are a whole book by themselves. Reestablish dominion. That's the kind of message if pastor was to preach on it. Ain't nobody eating lunch. Ain't nobody watching the game. This is going till 3 o'clock today. Okay. But we're gonna do our best to really move on to the next part of it. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the wisdom that we are just inheriting right now and that we're growing. So basically, breaking our addiction to the external environment is the way to reestablish dominion. What are we addicted to? What's the big 3? We're addicted to self, we're addicted to environment, and we are addicted to time, all right? So what did we learn? Step 1, awareness. Awareness comes first. Recognizing when and how those programmed responses take over is essential. When you move from the unconscious to the conscious, you begin to close the gap between how you appear and who you really are. Step 1, awareness. And then we get geeky because now we got to talk about the brain. And this is why we needed a part 2. Before I talk about the brain, I want to encourage you with one more line that I read that really made me go, man, self-awareness. I got to be able to look down on myself, right? I've got to be able to get into my mind, close my eyes, shut down that neocortex, make the orchestrator of the orchestra brain go, hey, shh, bring it down. And I've got to spend time in my mind so I can examine my thoughts. I can examine my heart. I can examine my agenda. I can examine my behavior. And I can be honest with myself and say, this needs to stay or get stronger and this needs to go, right? There are things we have to unlearn. And when we unlearn them, we'll fill those voids with new habits, because if we don't, what happens? We go back to the familiar behavior. Once you know what all of these domains are, the domains that you're going to do an overview over, right? How you think, how you behave, what your beliefs are. Once you know what all of these domains are, you will be more adept at knowing when you are in the brainwave state where ego is trying in vain to change the ego, and when you are in the brainwave state that is actually true fertile ground for real change. So he warns us, hey, there's going to be times that you think you're fixing you, but your ego is fixing your own ego. Okay. For instance, I think what might come to mind is like, anytime I'm teaching someone or like we're having these kind of conversations, it's real easy for us to go, oh, I got a friend that's just like that. Oh my God, no matter what you tell her, she don't listen. Right. And they're really good at saying, oh, I know someone just like that. I know someone just like that. But they hardly ever look at self or apply messages to self, go, man, that's crazy. I can relate to that. I need to change that about me, right? Ego is relating to the message and understanding it, but ego is also being selective about applying what it's understanding. And so your ego will fool you. The fertile ground of true change is possible. And it is a state of mind. Now, what is the mind? Remember, when we say the word mind, we're not talking about the brain. We're talking about the brain's activity is the mind. So we need to change our minds. We need to change our activity, our brain activity. So that way, we really have fertile ground for long-lasting true change. So then he starts to talk about the brain waves. All right. So if you're taking notes, we have delta, theta, alpha, and beta. Now, there's a couple things we need to know about them so you can know why they're important. We're not going to get too geeky, but basically, delta is birth to 2 years old. This is when the brain has its lowest brain levels. Now, do not assume that low brain levels means low brain activity. That's not what that means. It means, the interpretation I have is not as impacted by external environments, okay? Not impacted by external environments. So infants are in delta brainwave. When you are in a deep, deep, deep sleep, you are in delta brainwave, okay? You are not being impacted by external environment. Is an infant worried about the house they live in, what kind of car they drive, comparing what they got, what they don't got? Is an infant restrained by time? No. When you're in a deep sleep, are you worried about time? No. Are you living in the self, your body, picking yourself apart from head to toe, your world? What's my world look like? My environment, your time? No, you're not. You're in deep sleep. So delta, to put it in a simple term, is almost the goal, right? Delta brain waves, babies, and when you're asleep. Then you have theta brain wave. From the ages of 2 to 5 or 6 years old, a child will begin to demonstrate slightly higher EEG patterns. These theta waves are the waves of imagination. That's why these children live in abstract. They live in the realm of imagination. They exhibit few nuances of critical or rational thinking. For instance, they say, the example is, think Santa Claus is real, okay? Children living in that imagination zone, the theta zone, where reality and imagination is all one for them. If you're an artist, when you find yourself painting, when you find yourself singing, when you find yourself writing, this is the zone that you're in. You're good, baby. Theta zone, right? So my husband and I, reading this material, we realized that, some of the things that we see is like, oh, they're making racket, or, Elijah, for instance, my 6-year-old, you guys, if he puts on a costume, he is that character in his head, okay? Yesterday, he put on a little Black Panther costume and he said, Alexa, play Wakanda, in his little lisp. And Alexa starts playing. See, Alexa is trying to play. Alexa, cancel. So he started playing the Black Panther soundtrack. And me and my husband are just watching him, right? Because we're reading this book and we're like fascinated with this. And y'all, when I say for like maybe 2 hours, he was this character. Now, why was he doing this? Well, because we have a rule, no tablets during the week at all. Some of our children are destined to be the future engineers, the future architects, the future doctors, the future Tyler Perrys, the future writers and screenwriters and producers. But when they find that passion is when they're imagining, is when they're in imagination, is when they're creating. And these tablets don't allow them to have that bored, relaxed mindset that forces them to seek creation. I read an article that was it really gave me a different perspective. It said some of the talents you have today, some of the things you love to do today, you discovered when you were a child that was bored, when you were a child in the backyard playing. And now we are raising an entire generation of people that never create because they are constantly in what we know as beta zone. On that tablet, how your kids act when they're on Minecraft and we're on Roblox. Mine act frustrated, either zoned out or frustrated. That's beta zone. So what happens is we have an entire generation of people that have never just got to sit and daydream and pretend and play and have imagination and creation. And it's because every waking moment, every available moment is either directly doing something or on that tablet, on that phone, absolutely doing something. And when you talk about what we're learning, and I want to talk to the parents, I think it's really possible and powerful for you to pull back maybe some of the electronics in your house and to really encourage your children to go into creation and imagination zone. And I know how much of a job that is. Trust me, guys, I'm a busy, busy mom, right? I would rather have my kids quietly not making a mess on a tablet in a corner than to have them in the backyard painting cardboard boxes and making Play-Doh creations and all that. But ultimately, one of those options is for their best interest. And let's be real. This is not something we're exempt from because we're adults. You know, when you're surfing your phone and some piece of negative news hits your screen, immediately there's chemical reactions you have, and man, they got you. Now they got you in beta zone. Beta zone, by the way, let's go through the order of things. I don't want to lose you. Beta zone is where we usually live. Okay, so you have delta zone, infant is the infant. You have theta zone from 2 to 6. You have alpha zone from 5 to 8. Again, from 5 to 8 is a critical period. This is when they have an inner world of imagination. Okay, children in this age group live in both foots of the world. They live in imagination and they can live in reality. Theta zone, it's all one. Reality is imagination. Imagination is reality, right? Alpha zone, they have separated it now. There's a clear separation and they go from one to the other. Beta zone, usually around the ages of 8 to 12 and onward, brain activity increases to the higher frequencies. And this is where we live in conscious analytical thinking. After the age of 12, the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is closing. So I want you to imagine a door, right? I'm on the subconscious mind, you're on the conscious mind. And when we're a baby, we can go back and forth. Parents, that means that you can positively brainwash your child, right? We can go back and forth. We're delta. When I'm theta, when I'm a preschooler, I live in subconscious and conscious, reality and imagination. When I get to 8 years old, those doors are starting to close. It's harder to get through. I can, but it's a definite separation of worlds. By the time I'm 12, it's locked. It's done. What's in the subconscious is in the subconscious. And I no longer get to go back and forth. I no longer get to pick and choose what world I'm in. I live in the conscious world, and the subconscious world is not as available to me. So for those of us who have children under 12, we still have time. We still have time to brainwash our children in a positive way. And I know that that's a tough word, and I use a strong word on purpose. What you need to understand is you are brainwashed. You are. You absolutely are. What are you brainwashed in? What triggers you? When it comes across your newsfeed, what triggers you? Now, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I am brainwashed and I have massive compassion for children, right? If I see something negative about children, it can literally derail me for 2 or 3 days. When Sandy Hook happened, that was the moment my family made a decision to not have cable television in our house anymore. Not because I did not want to know what those families were going through, not because of that, but because it sucked me in. It sucked me in. I wasn't able to separate those emotions, and it absolutely derailed me. I can literally almost, if I'm not careful, feel how I felt in that moment of time. That was the decision where we took cable out of our house. And we have to be careful, because especially that compassionate side of us, compassion immediately wants to relate, right? But we are going between, whether we know it or not, we're going between subconscious and conscious. We're just doing it in a very negative way, or we're solidifying negative emotions. And you know what that is. A mood becomes a day, becomes a temperament, becomes a personality, becomes who you are. And it's crazy, but it can happen that quickly. And so now we are living in beta, all of us as adults. Beta is divided, and beta has 3 ways. As a child moves into teenage years, they tend to move from low beta waves to high beta waves. What is high beta waves? High beta waves is being impacted by the big 3. High beta waves is being in a constant analytical conscious mode. Analytical, everything, analyze. Those of you who had to forego parts of your childhood because you lived in an area or an environment that made you grow up fast At 8, 9 years old, you knew to look around yourself when you walked. You knew to not walk in certain areas. You knew not to walk in the dark. You knew who to sit by on the city bus, who to avoid. But you had to have self-preservation techniques as a child. You guys were actually thrown into beta at a much earlier age before the brain was ready. There's trauma there. You got to address it. If you're 8 years old as a little girl, 9 years old as a little girl, and you've already been warned about predators, keep your legs closed, wear shorts under your dresses. Don't do like that. Don't eat like that. You're already being told how to be analytical about men in your life because the woman who raised you is trying to protect you. You were thrown into beta mode at an earlier age than what should have happened. You need to address that because those fears, they take over. They really do. And that constant analyzing is not healthy for you. I know it preserved you. It's crazy, right? Because it preserved you. It kept you safe. But now that you're an adult and you are safe, it doesn't help you. One of the lines, I've read this over and over again in parenting magazines, psychologists, children's psychologist magazines. I have a statement on my refrigerator that says my children's mantra. They read it here and there. But one of the first things I say is you are safe. You are loved and you are safe. You are safe. You are safe. That is such an important thing for not just children to hear, it's important for you to hear. You are safe now. Those things you were worried about, they're not necessarily worries anymore. You might need to let go of some of the things you were taught. So now we're living in beta waves, okay? Now, in beta, think of beta meaning data being processed, data being processed, data being processed, okay? In alpha, this is, if you close your eyes, you can lower the beta waves. Why? Because the neocortex is now off and 80% of the data you were collecting, you're no longer collecting. What do I do when I get angry? Close your eyes. When I feel myself about to, some of you can relate to this. When I feel myself about to let the Caribbean blood boil, close your eyes. Close them. Close them. Take ownership back. Okay? If you have anger problems, and it's so funny because the sweetest, most quietest people, they know I'm talking to them because the thing about you is you really don't know how to be angry. So when you do get angry, you know what I'm talking about. You people, close your eyes. Shut down that neocortex before those emotions unravel, all right? I got people that like to relate. Oh, I know. So beta waves, data being processed. Alpha waves, close your eyes, okay? You're getting less information entering into the nervous system. You're less preoccupied with the elements of the outer world, and the internal world begins to consume your attention. You think less and you analyze less. In alpha, the brain is a light meditative state. Then you have theta, right? We're working our ways down. Theta, think of it as half awake, half sleep, okay? You guys know when you ever taken a micro nap on accident? Fell asleep for a whole 15 seconds, woke up like, what happened? Okay, you were half awake, you were half asleep. That was theta. Delta, deep sleep. Think of data as restoration. If beta is collecting data, delta is restoring self. Now, here's why delta is important, guys. This is what we're going to focus on. We move deeper into the inner world of our subconscious mind. Why do you want to get into delta? Because when you get into delta, it's like going into your brain with your tools. You can tap into the computer hardwire. You can take things out. You can put new things in. Okay. One of the things I told my husband was we need to record our voices saying powerful affirmation statements, maybe over light music. And that is what our children should fall asleep to. You are loved. You are safe. You are a creator. You are kind. You are beautiful. You are smart. You will inherit the riches of this earth. You will lead people. You will heal people. You are a healer. I think that's such a powerful idea to do for my children. Here's the thing. My children are going to be brainwashed. There's nothing I can do about it. I've got to make a positive, beautiful voice, as much of that brainwashing as possible. You want to seek delta because this is when you can get in and you can rewire. With repeated practice, these terrains of the mind, these 4 states of the mind, you will actually start to recognize them. Some of you know what I mean when I say half asleep, half awake in theta mode. You're like, yep, that's like when you're falling asleep and you are asleep, but you literally can still hear what's going on in the house. You can hear conversations. Or when you're coming out of sleep in the morning, when you're barely coming out, that last part, Joe Dispenza says that's when he sits up and he meditates right then and there in the mornings. He meditates right then and there because he knows that part of his brain is in theta. Okay. In delta, this is when you're in a deep sleep. You are not analyzing. You are not thinking too much. You are just becoming familiar with your mind and with you. Okay. And then we got this pretty cool image that he gives us, and I sloppied my notes next to it. Okay. So this is delta, baby brain waves. Okay. Then we have theta. Then we have alpha. Then we have beta. Now there is one more. It's called gamma. Gamma is where monks go, where people who are extremely talented in meditation go. Gamma is also sometimes seen on an EEG when someone is experiencing euphoric, intense, euphoric moments. For instance, when they put that baby on her chest right after birth. Love connection, sex, things like that. It's rare. It's a very rare brainwave. Now notice how it's not up here. You don't go from beta to gamma. Look at how much activity there is. It's under delta. So it obviously does not follow the same pattern of momentum and movement that we might think it would, right? To increase in activity is to increase in thought, right? This is telling us otherwise. To really be using the brain in its best function, using this computer in its best function is to quiet thought, to limit thought, and to get one with the mind. And so we go on to talk a little bit more about your beta waves and how they, what it looks like to be in each one of the beta waves. But the biggest lesson for us here is to understand that after a certain age, you are basically conditioned to live in an analytical thought process. You are living there, you are living there, you are living there. And the problem is that high beta functioning is too much focused concentration for what we are designed to be. Now, beta is to help us quickly focus. It is literally something we've adapted as animals for us to have so we can have self-preservation. But the problem is it causes an over-focused state of mind because of how we live. I want you to think about everything that has to do with time, environment, body. Alarm goes off at 6 a.m. Boom, time. Literally, you wake up to one of the big 3. Now you're looking at the time. Let me get dressed. Let me go to work. Who's texting me? Who's calling me? Let me get my food. Am I going to be able to, let me grab food to go, or do I got to get food there? Or let me get traffic. Traffic. People not going where they need to go. The kids not getting out the house. Finally, you get to work. Whoo, right? Some of you guys log in, then you eat your breakfast. I know how you do it. And then you maybe got 10 minutes of mental rest, and then it's boom, get into work. And for that entire day, you're focused on people, focused on tasks. You're concentrating, you're analytical thinking. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock comes. It's time to leave work. Now you're rushing traffic to get the kids, or rushing traffic to get home, then rushing the kids to do homework. It's where we live. And unfortunately, this is not how our brains were created to live. And so what happens is this over-focused state of mind is responsible for the following. You write down what you can relate to, but it's responsible for the following: anxiety, worry, anger, pain, suffering, frustration, fear, competitive states of mind. High range beta waves are dominating you because the brain believes it's in a crisis. And what long-term beta activity does is put our body in an emergency mode. It knocks us far out of balance. We are reactive, we are unstable, and we are volatile in our brainwave patterns. We are, write down what relates to you, obsessive compulsive, insomniacs, chronically fatigued, anxious or depressed, forcibly pushing in all directions, ambitious, overly ambitious, trying to be all powerful, hopelessly holding on to our pain, feeling powerless, competing to get ahead, or victimization by our own circumstances, feeling victimized. This is the results of a brain in high beta wave constantly, but it doesn't stop there. Because everything is an emergency, this continuous repetition of anger, fear, sadness, anxiety, depression, competition, aggression, insecurity, frustration perpetuates even more thoughts on focused survival, because it's a loop, right? I'm scared. Chemical reaction. Hormones to confirm I'm scared. I'm more scared. And it just keeps going in a circle. That's why when you are in anxiety or depression, you need to understand that is a loop, right? That's a loop of emotion. That's why it's so hard to really talk about it, because I get it. I have so many people that are like, this is my illness and I didn't pick this. And, you make it sound like something happened to me to have depression, but nothing has to happen to you. That's why it's depression. I'm like, okay, fight for your limitations, girl. Keep it. I'm not mad at you. You get to make your depression whatever you want it to be. What I want mine to be is below my sole of my foot, because I know that no weapon shall prosper, period. I don't care how I feel. And I'm not trying to be insensitive, but what I understand is that the enemy don't got to do a whole lot to win my entire generation, my children, my great-grandchildren, their children. He don't got to do a lot. He just got to get me to live in anger. Anger, you know what it looks like. But one thing we hardly address in anger is that anger turned inwards looks different than anger turned outwards. Anger turned inwards looks like anxiety, depression, self-harming emotion. That's what anger turned inwards is. You can make your sickness and illness whatever you want. As for me, I will choose to believe that I have some say in how I conduct my day-to-day. I have absolutely been in seasons of anxiety or postpartum depression. So I'm not insensitive to it, but I'm not going to give it power. And I feel like way too many times we give those things power. And if I'm being really honest, I feel like some people give it power because it's their identity. It's what gets them attention. It's self-seeking behavior. It soothes them, and they don't even realize they're in that loop. We're so proud to give ourselves labels. We literally live in the world of titles to the point where I don't care if it's a negative title, I'll take it. I'm depressed. I have anxiety. My anxiety's acting up. Your anxiety's acting up. You eat like crap. You don't sleep. You don't exercise, you don't pray, you don't meditate, but you wonder why you live in this perpetual loop of negative emotions. Okay, sis, enjoy your hot Cheetos, okay? And your mocha loca latte while you talk about you're depressed. I think it's diabetes, but you call it depression. Okay, let's go. To them, everything is an emergency. And so we're over-focused on survival. Oh, this last line, you guys. Also, recall that we turn on stress response by thought alone. By thought alone. Think it and it shall be. If you have sinned with your eyes, you have already sinned. Man, I feel like we've been learning this for a long time, right? But now quantum physics is making it science. And for some of us, we need that confirmation. We need to connect the logical with the spiritual. I get it. And he basically tells us that us, by thought alone, we can trigger an entire stress emergency response system in our body. The way we are thinking reinforces the very state of the brain. I'm depressed. I wake up and I think about, man, I'm depressed. I Googled depression. Oh my God, the brain goes depressed. Release depression chemicals, release depression hormones. I'm more depressed. This time, I don't know why. That mood turns into hours, turns into days, turns into temperament, turns into personality. We have to unwire all of that. We have to reverse engineer it. By thought alone, we trigger stress and emergency response. Oh, that's scary. By thought alone. Nothing got to happen. That's why people say nothing happened. I'm just this way. No, something happened. What are you thinking? What script is playing in your mind? What do you focus on? What do you think about? When you're in the shower, where does your brain wander off to? What are you thinking about? What has your attention on your phone? What has your attention on TV? Right? What are you thinking about? The very state of the brain is reinforced by thought alone. And the body. And the body. Which then causes us to think the way we feel and feel the way we think. And the loop goes on. It is the serpent eating its own tail. That loop. It is the serpent eating its own tail. Oh, I want you to get that visual locked in your head. So when you're in your feelings, you can say, is this the serpent eating its tail? Is that what this is? Is this the serpent eating its tail? You got to be wise, right? And so we know what the brain waves are. We know what it means. Long-term beta will have parts of the brain stop working in its best way, right? So what happens is the brain stops coordinating effectively. And so entire regions will work separately and in opposition with each other instead of working together. That is a result of long-term stress. Say it again. Long-term stress is your brain going, damn, it's hard. Hey, y'all, this getting a little tough. So I'm gonna come work over here. You go work over there. I know we're used to working all together. This is a lot of energy that's happening. This negative mindset, this negative experience is causing a lot of intense beta waves. We can't handle it. Let's do something that we always do. The body is always about self-preservation. And so we're going to separate and we're no longer going to work in unison. And one of the effects of that is that the brain could literally not only work in parts, but work in opposition. I don't want to be depressed, but I feel depressed. I don't want to be anxious anymore, but I feel it. If you've ever said that, this is what's happening. You are living in long-term stress, beta waves. Your mind is unorganized and it is not in its natural fashion. You are out of balance. You are upsetting your homeostasis. You have disorderly and incoherent signals. You are setting the stage for disease. You're setting the stage. The first thing that happens is high stress mode of the chaotic brain releases chemicals that impact the heart. It starts with small misbeats. It starts with small spurts of arrhythmia or high blood pressure. Then digestion begins to fail. It's not getting the constant pattern, the adequate blood that the digestive system needs so much. They call the digestive system the second brain. The digestive system is an animal. It takes a lot of energy out of us. That's why when you don't eat so good and you got to go lay on the couch and breathe hard, your body is like, shut down, please, because I need all the energy to digest the yams, macaroni and cheese and steak. That's what's happening. And so next, the digestive system is upset, starting to fail in small ways. First, you might see reflux. You might see indigestion. But because the digestive system is responsible for immunity, now the immune system is failing. How do you know that you have immune system illnesses, colds, allergies, not being able to fight off small fungal infections, not being able to heal the same way, right? Maybe if you had a pimple and it takes like way longer to heal, or if you have a small scratch, it takes way longer to heal. This is the cause for cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, and other diseases that depend on the immune function of the body. You now have an unbalanced nervous system. And an unbalanced nervous system can lead to a host of any type of mental illness, anything from depression all the way to MS, anything that's having to do with the central nervous system. Sustained high beta makes it absolutely hard to focus on inner self. It's almost impossible. We criticize everyone we know. We judge the way our bodies look. We're over-focused on our problems. We cling to the things that we own out of fear that we're going to lose them. What? We cling to the things that we own, not because we love them so much, because we're so scared that we're going to lose it. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to live a beautiful lifestyle, being in a beautiful home, being in a beautiful car. Those things are not problems. The problem is that what really drives us once we have those things is not gratitude, it's lack mentality. What drives us is, I just don't want to lose it. Have you ever gotten some success or gotten something great and you're like, oh my God, I just want it to stay this way. I just don't want it to go away. I just want it to keep being good. And your fear, your thought process is, I just don't want it to go bad. I just don't want it to go away. I just don't want it to end. Some of the best advice I ever got was quit waiting for the bad. Quit worshiping the problem in advance. You're manifesting a problem. So the solution is for us to go inward. But because we're so busy with ourselves, our places, where we got to go, what we got to do, and preoccupied with our time, we can't go inward. We can't go to that beautiful place where the world shuts down and it's just us and our God and our mind. We can't go there. That's the last thing you want to do when you got a million things to do and you're running late and you're in traffic, you haven't eaten, the kids can get picked up and you got to run across town. You're not thinking about, today, Demita, we're going to go inward. No. Demita, like, I got to get home, get these kids in bed. I got a presentation at 8, let's go. Right? So we have to obsess about understanding where we are, right? What brainwave am I in right now? Am I in beta? Let me bring it back. Let me bring it at least to low beta. Let me calm down. Everything that I want wants me. You are my ultimate helper. You make time on my side. You make all my tasks light. Everything that happens to me is to promote me. And to force yourself to go into that at least lower beta wave. So you're not living in high beta. High beta is where you are thinking about problems and not solutions. You are thinking about problems and not solutions. When you are stuck in high beta, it's hard to learn. Very little new information can enter into your nervous system that is not equal to the emotion you are experiencing. You reason poorly and you think without clarity. In the view of emotions that grip you, you're thinking in the past. You're trying to predict the next moment based on the past, and your brain can't process the present moment. Has anyone ever tried to predict the next moment based on the past? That's called worrying. That's all that is. Predicting the next moment based on the past, when everything feels like a crisis, your brain makes survival at the priority. Your brain is like, survival is the priority. Forget creating, forget learning. What? Nope, survival. And you were created to live in the learning and creation space. Your brain best works as a map. It is not a log. We use it as a log. The answer actually lies outside of the emotions that we are wrestling with, that we're overanalyzing. It lies outside of the problem, the familiar, the known. Solving your problem begins with getting beyond familiar feelings and replacing your scattered focus on the big three with a more orderly mode of thinking. Solving your problems, all of them, begins with changing your mind, moving away from familiar feelings. Here is a way to know if you're in the beta state. Am I analyzing right now? Am I analyzing right now? Now you'll be like, well, hold up. Aren't we supposed to like go inward and analyze the mind? No, you're supposed to go inward and be aware of the mind. Being aware is way different than analyzing. You ever heard of paralysis by analysis? Well, that's what is happening to us when we live most of our lives in that beta range. The only time we aren't there is when we're sleeping. Mm-hmm. So actually, awareness must and can exist outside of analysis. When you are aware, you might think, I'm feeling angry. But when you are analyzing, you go beyond that and you're like, man, why is this page taking so long to load? Oh, who made this stupid website? This thing is not working. I hate this internet. Why is it whenever I'm in a hurry, people want to drive like they're crazy? Get off the road. That's not just being angry. That's analyzing now why you're angry. So awareness versus analyzation. When you are in meditation, what's meditation? Meditation basically says we need to practice not being in beta mode. We need to practice, we need to condition ourselves to be outside of survival mode. And the word meditation can be really kind of controversial depending on what you believe, but erase it. Do you believe in getting out of survival mode, closing your eyes, and being aware? And considering my thoughts? How do I think? How do I feel? How did I behave today? Was I proud of that? Do I want to change that? Yes, I'm so happy and grateful now. Right? Living in the mind. We are completely in the realm of subconscious when we are meditating. And he gives us some pictures of the early mind, right? So the baby brain, right? Delta, nothing. Then you have theta, developing mind, okay? The baby's learning what to touch, what not to touch, okay? And Then we have, this is our analytical mind, right? We're starting to grow into the last world, which is subconscious versus conscious. And this is where most of us spend our entire energy as an adult. In adults, critical mind loves to reason. It loves to evaluate, anticipate. It loves to forecast. It loves to compare what it knows to what it's learning, or to contrast the knowns versus the unknowns. When adults are conscious, their analytical minds are always working. Think about this. We love to anticipate. We love to forecast. We want to compare everything we're learning with what we already know. Ain't that silly? If you don't know nothing about something and you're learning about it, you're comparing what you know with what you don't know. But think about it. You might sign someone up and they're like, how am I going to learn this? Like, how am I going to even learn this? And you're like, I just did a 40-minute presentation about how we're going to learn this. What is happening? Here's what's happening. They're not even hearing you. Real talk. All they're thinking of is, do I have $235 and can I really win? And what's going to happen if this ain't real? And can this be a scam? And let me compare it to Susu's, and let me compare it to my mom's Mary Kay, and let me compare. You literally have nothing to reference it to. So you're forcing some reference. You ever finish a whole presentation and like, okay, so what are we doing? What? Ma'am, I need you to get out of beta mode, pay attention, and get into theta mode so you can learn, right? We can't say that. They'll be like weirdos. But that's what's happening. They have absolutely closed the conscious mind from the subconscious mind. They're not in learning mode. This is gonna make a lot of sense now when you start presenting. You'll be like, I get it. I get it. You know, my husband told me yesterday, he's like, babe, are grown men really this silly? Grown men. Now I see why so many women are not married. Are grown men really this silly? And I'm like, yes. Grown men living in beta waves, any adult living in beta waves, living in survival mode, they're not even using their full brain. They're not even able to go towards the fundamental purpose of that brain. Meditation is you attempting to break the conscious and create a portal to the conscious, the unconscious, the subconscious, right? You are attempting to go from what's been locked, right? Ever since you were 12 years old, you're attempting to go into that. Close the eyes, shut down the neocortex, thinking about who you are, your ideal self, who you really are, not thinking about the big three: self, environment, and time. So meditation is a tool for us to get in and rewire that brain. Once the body is no longer running the mind, once the body is no longer trying to be the brain, get out of here, body. You are not the brain. The body is trying to be the brain. The servant is no longer the master when the body is no longer running the mind, and you are working in a realm of true power. You are like a child again. So we've got to break our addictive and our emotional states. We've got to break our familiar emotional patterns so we can break the familiar chemical response, so we can break the familiar hormonal response, so we can break the familiar central nervous system response, break the reaction, break the reality, break the personality to create new habits, new response. The best time to meditate is morning and evening, when you're waking up and when you're about to go to sleep. And remember, your whole goal is to break the conscious, to quit thinking about all external factors, to get quiet, and to get in just the mind. And it takes practice. You know, at first, you might be the person that you ever been to, like, maybe you're praying at church or maybe you're at yoga, I'm not sure. And it gets quiet and like, you're the person that when it gets quiet, you just get super analytical. You're like, oh, I could hear somebody breathing. Girl, who breathing like that? Open an eye, look around, right? You are having a hard time shutting things down. You're having a hard time getting quiet. You're having a hard time shutting that mind down. Okay. Be aware of that, because you got to practice how to quiet the mind. Ugh. I never thought that would be such a task, but we've been living in high brain frequency stress response emergency systems for so long that we're uncomfortable with peace. We're uncomfortable with quiet. There's something that people say when they come to my house. They're like, it's so quiet. It's so quiet in your house. How you got all these kids and it's so quiet? I know what it is. It's that I don't have TVs running. Some of us are so hooked on emergency response system that we don't like a quiet house. We got to have the TVs running because we got to hear voices. We got to hear something going on. Right? Maybe your parents fell asleep to the TV running. Maybe you learned to fall asleep to the TV running. So you need that soothing noise to make you not feel alone, to give you a familiar response. That familiar zone you're trying to get is just a stress response system. This is why it's so dangerous. Oh my gosh, I could not stand when I worked in nursing homes as a nurse and they would keep the news on TV all day. I'm like, are y'all trying to kill him? Y'all trying to kill him, huh? Y'all know these 80, 90-year-olds cannot handle this radicalized news all day from morning till night. Y'all trying to kill him. And it's really true, the stress in the atmosphere that's created. So quiet, get comfortable with quiet. Morning and evening, meditate. Your awareness will shift from narrow-minded, over-focused, obsessive, compartmentalized survival thinking to thoughts that are more open, relaxed, holistic, present, orderly, creative, and simple. The difference between a coherent brain and an incoherent brain. Look at that. What does your crown look like? What does your crown of energy look like? And so we've got to get away from the negative, familiar. The ultimate goal when you are meditating, praying, quieting your mind is to allow the body to fall asleep while the mind is awake. Okay? So as you are learning this skill and you are being compassionate with yourself and you are learning to quiet the mind, you want the body to fall asleep, you want the mind to be awake. This is where you get healthier, elevated emotions of trust, joy, inspiration, if done properly, if you can get out of beta waves and if you can have what they call harmony. Because when someone is in a meditative state and they're focused on positive emotions, there's actually harmony in the brain waves. Harmony, synchronized waves. That's a beautiful thing. And we can measure it. We can measure this activity, but can't we just feel it? Can't you guys feel it? Now you understand what it feels like, how to describe when you're in emergency response, when you're in a stressful situation, when you're in beta versus when you are in quiet mode, when the brain is in homeostasis. The nervous system will recalibrate itself and all of the enormous energy that was needed for survival can now be focused on creation. The body begins to heal, literally, actually heal. This is when repair is taking place. Think about it. If you meditate, repair is taking place. If you're in a deep sleep, repair is taking place. We're seeing a trend. So guys, that wraps up the chapter. He talks about some examples of different stories he had, but just to think how powerful it is now to be able to have an explanation of maybe the things you've experienced your whole life as an adult, that emotional turmoil, the ups, the downs, the things that are hard to put words to. And now you can understand, hey, we are all living in some familiar loop of emotions. What does mine look like? What am I doing, right? Since I know it's true, we can't argue with it. What does mine look like? I think it's, if you're honest, you can really look at you and your behaviors And you can say, yeah, this is me acting out of stress response, overeating, compulsiveness, a control freak, right? Emotional, outburst, anger, yelling, crying spouts, highs and lows, any of this. Analyze yourself and think about the last time you were stressed out, freaked out, maybe not so proud of how you reacted or could have done things differently, and analyze yourself. Analyze a stressful day for you. What was your go-to? Did you hide under the blankets? Did you not get showered that day? Did you overeat? Did you, what did you do? I'll tell you what mines are, right? I'm constantly cleaning. I'm a cleaner. Okay. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because I really, really love a clean house. Like, but not just clean, like perfect, like everything, every inch of my home, every corner, every outlet, every under the rug, under the couch, every piece of the chair wiped down, under the chair, anywhere a finger could have been placed, I want it wiped down. I clean before housekeepers come, type clean. And if I'm just applying what I learned, for me, that's a stress response. To be compulsive about it, I can put all that stress response energy into that, and it feels good, it feels productive. And what I'm doing is everything is perfect, right? The house is all together. You could take a picture to like a magazine, and that's not realistic. That's not realistic. But then I have these crazy standards and then they're not met. And so there's a loop of emotion, right? So I have to ask myself, why do I do that? Well, I think I do that because it gives me control of my external, and I'm still using my external to make my internal feel a good chemical. So I'm using my external. I like the way it feels when everything is in its place. I know every piece of dirt in this house. I know every item in this house. If an acorn makes it in my house, I will know, right? I like the control of the external because it brings me calm on my internal. So I've got to relearn that. One of the ways that I'm relearning that is I saw a picture of a pine needle fresh off a tree, and it said, this is order. And then I saw another picture where they took every needle off the pine needle. They ordered up all the needles from smallest to biggest. They ordered the sticks off the little branch from smallest to biggest. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw it, I was like, ooh, that looks good. So satisfying, right? But then it said, this is chaos. I was like, oh snap. So I'm learning that a home that's lived in, a home with shoes in the doorway, a home with toys thrown about, a home with sticky fingers on the chair is a home that's lived in. Retraining my brain to not see that as chaos, but to see that as a natural order of a full home, right? So for me, it's about how do I think about it, being aware of my problem, rethinking about it, and then controlling those emotions. Because if upstairs is dirty and mama has to go up there with a black trash bag, I'm throwing everything away. Everything. You'd be lucky to have a sheet left on your bed, because my mama is straight from the island. She don't play. Puerto Ricans have a problem with keeping things clean, okay? We have a genetic disorder. I'm convinced now, because everyone I met like me is just like me. Look at them co-signing in the chat box. I knew it, okay? But if I'm being really transparent and honest, this is an example of me using my external to try to pacify my internal, right? That's like a glass of wine at the end of the day. I get it. It feels harmless, but you need to at least be aware I'm still using an external to calm the internal. You need to be aware that it's a crutch. Sex, for some people, it may not necessarily have given you a negative life, right? But you just need to be aware that I'm using an external to try to pacify an internal emotion. My husband is literally in the background, Gangnam dancing to that statement. So I want us to just be aware of what our externals are that make us feel good in the internal. I want you to be aware, because now we can keep them in our life if we want, right? I like cleaning. I like my house clean, but I'm going to be really aware that it's an external that I'm trying to allow to motivate or calm my internal. So is it worth yelling about? Nope. Is it worth screaming about? Nope. Right? Maybe mommy needs to apply the consequences and talk less. And so I want you to do that. I want you to, through self-awareness, examine you. What is it you can change? What can do better? Maybe in your business, you have a loop of emotions, you have a loop of patterns, and you don't realize it yet, right? You get anxious about doing the activity because you don't know how people will reply. You finally maybe talk to someone, you're still kind of anxious. It didn't go that great. Oh my God, that was horrible. I don't want to do that again. Oh, I need to do that again because I want to go chairman. And you are stuck in this loop of emotions. You need to get out of that. Let nothing external control your internal. That includes other people. That includes other people. So in your business, where are your loops of activities, your loops of emotions? In your relationships, where are they? In your parenting, where is it? Identify it so you can change it. Guys, I appreciate you. I am so grateful for being able to go through this chapter. Thank you, Randy, for letting me hijack your morning time on Friday mornings and to really teach this chapter. I wanted to make sure that we talked about it in sections so we could get it. And I want to encourage you, if you don't have this book, buy the book, okay? Buy the book. This is one that I'm going to have to reread and come back to and read again. It's definitely one that I know that as I mature, parts of it will mean something different to me. And so I'm grateful that we got to do this time together, guys. I'm grateful for you early this morning. This has been your morning mentorship call. Thank you guys so much for joining us.